My little one, sit beside me. The night is warm, and the desert wind is quiet now. You see those stars above us? They look peaceful, don't they? Hard to believe that once, under this same sky, fire rained down instead of silence. You've asked me many times about the scar on my arm and why I stare into the distance whenever someone mentions June of 1967. Tonight, I will tell you, not because the memory is easy, but because you should know what your family lived through. Back then, I was not an old man with aching bones. I was young, younger than your father is now. I lived in a small village on the edge of the desert, where the sand met the Nile like two worlds trying to understand each other. My days were simple, working on the fields with my father, helping my mother carry water, and dreaming foolish dreams about the future. But there were whispers everywhere. People spoke of tension, of armies moving, of neighbors turning into enemies overnight. Every radio, every cafe, every prayer gathering buzzed with the same question. Would war come? Egypt was proud then, still finding its place in a changing world. Many believed we would stand strong. Others feared what was coming. I remember the last peaceful sunset before everything changed. I was sitting on the roof of our house, watching the sun sink behind the desert dunes. The air smelled of warm dust and jasmine. My sister was laughing inside, chasing our little brother around the room. My mother hummed a song she learned from her mother, and my father sat quietly by the window, polishing his old copper lantern. It was a normal evening, the kind you never realize is precious until it becomes memory. The next morning, before the call to prayer even rose, we heard the sound, a distant thunder that did not belong to the sky. Jets, many of them. The ground trembled. Dogs barked. Chickens scattered in panic. My father ran outside and looked up with a face I had never seen before. Fear and determination mixed like oil and water. He grabbed my arm and said, "It has begun. War. Not rumors, not whispers, but war." The planes streaked across the sky like angry metal birds, leaving trails of smoke behind them. We heard explosions far away, then closer, then so close, the windows shook. The heat of the day had not started yet, but sweat ran down my back just from fear. My mother gathered us inside, clutching us like she could shield us from the world itself. In the afternoon, a truck full of soldiers passed through the village. Dust rose behind them like a ghost chasing their wheels. They waved at us, some smiling, some too tired to pretend. Boys, not much older than me, dressed in uniforms that looked far too heavy for the scorching Egyptian sun. One of them tossed me a date from his rations and said, "Pray for us, brother." I did. Every day. The radio cracked with broadcasts, messages of conflict, instructions, warnings. The adults huddled around it like worshippers before an altar. My father's jaw stayed clenched. My mother's eyes stayed wet. And the sky stayed full of smoke. You see, my boy, war does not arrive all at once. It creeps in, first with whispers, then with rumors, then with fear, and finally, one morning, you wake up and realize the world you knew is gone. The desert, once so calm, suddenly felt like a stranger. The heat, the wind, the silence, everything carried tension, like the land itself was holding its breath. And deep inside, so were we. That night, as we sat together in darkness, the electricity cut, the radio silent, my father finally spoke. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled. "Whatever happens," he said, "we stay together. We endure. We are Egyptians. This land has survived thousands of years, and so will we." Little did we know how much we would be tested, because the 6 days that followed would change not just the desert, but every life beneath it. By the third day, something strange happened. The sky, usually full of noise, smoke, and metal, went silent. It was not peace. It was the kind of silence that feels like the world is holding its breath. We had moved most of the families into the oldest stone building in the village, a place that had survived storms, floods, and time itself. The walls were thick, built by hands long gone, and somehow they made everyone feel safer. Mothers whispered prayers. Children hugged their knees. Fathers stared at the door as if expecting it to break open. Outside, the heat shimmered above the sand like waves in the air. Everything was still. Even the birds had vanished. I remember sitting beside my father, watching him sharpen an old tool. Not for war, we had no weapons, but because when fear grows, the mind looks for anything it can control. "Do you think this will end soon?" I asked. He didn't look at me. He kept sharpening the tool, slow and steady. "It will end," he said, "but not soon." Those words stayed with me for years. That afternoon, soldiers passed through the village, moving quickly, carrying maps and radios. One of them stopped beside us. His uniform was torn, his hands shaking slightly, though he tried to hide it. "Stay inside," he warned. "Something is coming." But he didn't say what. Hours later, the ground began to vibrate. Not like an explosion, more like a distant storm marching toward us. People ran into the stone building. Even my father, calm as he was, hurried us inside. Then it happened. A sound like rolling thunder, but sharper, deeper, a mechanical roar stretching across the desert. Tanks, many of them. Their engines echoed against the empty sky, making it impossible to tell how close they were. Every vibration passed through the soles of our feet, through the walls, through our bones. The children started to cry. My mother covered their ears. My father stood near the window, not to look, but to listen. Minutes passed. Long, slow, heavy minutes. Finally, the roaring began to fade, replaced by the distant clatter of machinery and muffled shouting. I dared to peek outside through a crack. The tanks were moving past the village toward the front lines. At that moment, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief, mixed with guilt. We were safe, for now, but others wouldn't be. That night, the silence returned. A heavy, suffocating silence. But this time, it carried a message that the war was far from over, and the desert had many more storms to unleash. My father sat beside me, his eyes tired but steady. "Remember," he said softly, "every silent night is a gift, and gifts don't last forever." I didn't understand then, but later, I would. And now, my dear one, this is why I tell you this story. Because war is loud, but peace begins in the quiet choices we make. Your generation must remember something. Mine learned the hard way. The desert forgets footsteps, but it never forgets the lessons of those who crossed it. And that's why I speak. So you will know, so you will remember, so you will choose differently.